Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is January 22nd, 2024, and it's 6 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor McIntosh, Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? Yes, thank you very much. Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? No? Seeing none? Okay, we're going to go into closed. Could I have a motion to go into closed session, please? Councillor Andrews, Councillor Stevens, all in favor? Yes. Okay. Welcome to the council meeting on Monday, January 22nd at 7 p.m. Are we echoing still? It's the one up front. We'll just wait for a quick second. All good to go? No? Good there? Okay, very good. So the first thing I'd like to acknowledge is that I am not Mayor Post. I am just sitting in her chair. Mayor Post and Councillor Prendergast are with us. They're online. And the mayor is still the mayor and I'm still the deputy mayor. The issue is the Mayor Post is not in the building, so Mayor Post cannot run the meeting according to our bylaws. So I'll run the meeting and the mayor will participate, as will Councillor Prendergast, and you'll be able to see both of them on their screen. So we welcome you both and thank you for representing the town at the Roma conference. We really appreciate you doing that. Okay, so at this time, I'd like everyone to stand if you're able and join us in singing the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'd like to thank the artistic director of Theatre Orangeville for helping us with that rendition of O Canada. Okay, so at this time, I would like to do the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the treaty lands in the territory of the Williams Treaty Nations and the Mississauga of the Credit First Nations. We also recognize that Dufferin County is the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and is home to many Indigenous people today. Thank you for that. Number 8, announcements by the chair. This meeting is being shared on public television and or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. And any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *6 to mute and unmute. Please remain muted until the chair requests comments or questions from the public. Okay, so for a rise and report, there is a recommendation that the minutes of 2023 October 30th and 2023 December 11th closed meetings be approved, and the confidential presentations from CAO David Smith, Corporate Strategies Initiatives regarding labor relations or employee relations, parallel negotiations be received, and that confidential verbal report from CAO David Smith, Town Facility regarding litigations or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board be received, and that staff be proceeded as directed. Madam Clerk, do we need a motion to do that? Yes, please. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews, Councillor McIntosh, any questions or comments? All in favor? Yes. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and so item 10 is the adoption of the minutes of the previous council meeting from January 11th. Can I have a motion to do that? Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Stevens, any questions or comments? No, seeing none. All in favor of that? Very good. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and then we also need the council meeting minutes from January 8th. We're good. Sorry, that's the 11th. Excuse me. So we're past that. So question period. Item 11, question period. Jerry is not here. Why is Jerry not here tonight? We're used to Jerry being here. Is anyone on the line? No. Okay. Is there anyone in the gallery that has questions at this time? Yes, please, sir. You could please come on up to the microphone and share your address, name and address, please.
Yep, Matthew Smith, 38 McCarthy Street.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Go ahead.
Thank you. I do have a question about something I noticed in the Access Orangeville Committee meeting minutes from December the 14th. In the minutes, there's a transit update section, and it mentions an issue with 2 buses, and there's a purchase of another bus being highlighted. There's also a bullet point about an electrified bus. Now, on the 27th of November, the town council meeting, I asked a question about the status of the town buses, because school buses were still being used at the time. The response at that time was given was, we're expecting all 3 buses to be back in service very shortly. And then just about 2.5 weeks later, in the committee meeting minutes, it says there's an issue with 2 of the buses. So I'd like some clarification in regards to that and the information about this new bus purchase if possible.
So, Mr. Smith, if I may, I think we're going to cover that off in presentations as well. So Ms. Rowley will be speaking to us, and then staff will answer your questions at that time.
Okay, but wait, there's more. And also in the minutes, there's the portion about the electrified bus. So I don't know if that's going to be covered or not. May I ask that question?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Koslak, did you want to speak to the electric bus?
Sure, through your worship. One of the things we budgeted for and got funding for was to do a study to look at electrification of our transit fleet. The study is just being finished up. Preliminary results look at this time, infrastructure isn't available and the costs are kind of prohibitive to do electrification of our transit fleet. But we're going to get that full report in the next month or 2, and we'll be able to bring that to council. So electrification probably won't happen in the near future with our buses.
Yeah, 'cause I do remember, I forget if it was at the, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I do remember at it was either the council meeting or the mayor's town hall conference saying, yeah, electrification wouldn't be possible until at least about 2030. So it just caught my eye that it was mentioned in the meeting minutes. So that's just what I wanted the information about.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. Any further questions from the gallery tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into presentations, petitions, and delegations. So at this time, I'd like to call on Martina Rowley. If you'd like to come forward and offer your thoughts tonight. If you could just share your name and address beginning.
So Martina Rowley, 56 Chisholm Street.
Very good. Go ahead, please.
May I just ask, is the presentation going to be up or? Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors and town staff and members of the public. I wanted to bring to your attention my experience with our transit system over the past years and how frustrated I've become about it still not meeting user needs and repeated promises. Since I moved to Orangeville in 2017, the past 3 sets of councillors have promised a better and improved system. I'm a frequent user of Orangeville Transit and I don't own a car by choice, so I rely on buses for errands, getting to activities, medical appointments and business meetings. New and more reliable buses and route improvements keep being promised, but here's a snapshot of the reality of what I and other transit users experience regularly. Can I have the first slide, please? Should I fast forward these, or if you please can go to the next slide? The school buses are still used the majority of the time on the orange route and green routes and very often on blue routes. When school buses are in use, there's no GPS tracking, so the bus app doesn't work. And when buses run significantly late, which they do often, you stand in the freezing cold or the blazing heat for 20 or 30 minutes waiting for a bus to show up. Buses are too late too often, and I have many times given up on a bus altogether and either walked or given up on my planned trip.
Valley, may I just interrupt? So
Yes.
what you're saying is super important. Issue with the work that you've done on the PowerPoint.
Okay, sure, I'll just wait.
Just wait, and your message isn't diminished.
If you can just go to the previous slide.
Apologize for this, but what you're saying is
Thank you.
okay.
Yes, this one. Thank you.
Good.
Yes, thank you very much. Where was I now? Here. Right. So often I do give up on my planned trip because the bus is so late, and if I can't see on the app if it's going to come at all, then there's just no purpose to even trying anymore. School buses, as often as they run, also then don't meet accessibility requirements for the many seniors and anyone with problems climbing steep stairs, people with mobility devices, or parents with strollers. The blue route is still too long, and that has been known for years as well. With many left turns it has onto main roads, it makes it impossible for drivers to stay on schedule, and this was meant to be reviewed and updated over the years as well. You can go to the next slide, please. I'll address the next points at the end. The graph here is a very quick impromptu feedback I asked of one of the regular bus drivers recently. I asked her how many times she feels she ends up driving a school bus instead of the proper transit bus. She said a high number, like 98% for the orange bus route, 70 to 80% of the time for the green route, and maybe 20% of the time on the blue route. Next slide, please. So these numbers are far too high for school buses to be run in terms of all of the previous points I mentioned, accessibility and so on. The next few slides are just evidence of school buses used on all 3 routes recently, just in a quick snapshot that I took over about a week or 10 days. You can see here, this is one of the routes, the green route. Next slide, please. This was the orange route. Next slide. And you can see the dates, various dates, blue route the next day. Next slide. And this just shows some screenshots of the bus app not working because it doesn't show the little bus moving, so you don't know if it's coming or not. If you multiply these delays and how many times school buses are used by months, you'll see how often transit buses are not actually on the streets. The next slide, please. Thank you. We can skip through that, please. I've addressed that. Then in June 2019, Council then adopted the Sustainable Neighbourhood Action Plan, SNAP, in which several plans and milestones were outlined as requested and voted on by hundreds of residents who attended the public meetings, including myself. And I feel the town is still falling short of too many of these. Notably, a couple of points from the SNAP is to promote a shift to more sustainable and efficient transportation options. Secondly, to improve access to transit options to reduce single occupancy vehicle use, especially significant now that the town continues growing. And to promote walking and biking by increasing connectivity and safety for active transportation. The town is then also said to be responsible for reporting metrics every 2 years and later every 5 years. One of my questions to Council at the end in a moment will be, has a progress report been put together and publicised in or for 2023 as the SNAP report said? Next slide, please. My request to Council and town staff is this: please do better with our public transit. Promises for significant improvements have been 6 years in the making already, and it feels too much like lip service is being paid. Also, I would like to say, please make sure that the money you spend on new infrastructure, like our new transit terminal, is applied to its full extent and not just for basic provision. The current bus shelters at the new transit terminal feel quite ineffective, with an entire length of the sides wide open to the elements and with just 2 seats in each shelter, which is even less than we had in the old shelters. And it feels like consulting designers are people who have never waited for a bus in a drafty shelter, if they design things like this. And lastly, please live up to the SNAP plan to demonstrate sustainability leadership and not just pay lip service. I find that if we as a town and you as decision makers can't even meet my needs as a die-hard, tolerant public transit user and constant vocal advocate, how do we have any chance of getting other residents out of their cars and onto the buses? Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your responses.
Ms. Rowley, thank you so much for that presentation. Honestly, if all citizens were like you and came forward and presented things in such a professional manner, and being clear and passionate and professional as you just did, it would be incredibly helpful to the entire town. So I thank you very much for doing that. In terms of your commentary, I would just share, there's no defense. What you're saying is absolutely spot on. It's clear and true. The bus system needs to be better. All of us know that. I'll turn it over to Mr. Koselak, and it won't be an excuse session, and I don't want to set you up, and I'm looking you in the eye because I don't want to set it up for an excuse session. These are things that we're working on as a team,
and that town staff is trying to progress, and we will get better. But this will be a little update for you, and then I'll turn it over to my fellow councillors for their commentary.
Thank you.
Mr. Koslak, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, through your worship. Yeah, I guess the transit system needs improvement. I don't think the numbers are quite as high as you'd indicated in the presentation. I think it's more, probably less than 40% of the time there's school buses looking at in 2023. One of the big problems was supply and demand. We had one go down with a fuel pump, and it took about 2 months to get a new fuel pump. So it's one of the things we're trying to do improvements. We were looking at putting out a request for proposals for a new bus in the next few weeks to be able to purchase another bus to be able to get on the fleet. We did develop the transit hub. One of the things we're looking at changing the routes, but we're waiting until Hanson Bridge is constructed and the road is opened. And that way we'll be able to service more like 95% of the town. So that we're going to wait to do the changes for that area. But we did do changes to bring it through the hub. So there'll be one meeting point there. One of the points you did mention too was there's no washroom facilities. I don't know if you noticed, but that was something we put in the budget for this year. So we can't put it out there now, but come the nicer weather this May or June, we'll look at putting a facility out there. And one of the things council spent a lot of money in the budget towards doing sidewalk improvements to be able to get people using active transportation more. So that's one of the things we're going to be working on this summer, doing a lot of repairs and improvements to the sidewalk system. But if you do have questions, this is the first I've heard about the transit, the terminal shelters not being sufficient for people. If you do have questions, we'd love to work with you in the future, because quite often there's issues, and if people don't let us know, it's really difficult to know there's an issue, but something like that, we can really look at addressing it. Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillor McIntosh and then Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Could Mr. Koslak tell us about the small bus that is handicap accessible that you put on the lines? Thank you.
Through your worship, we do have a number of smaller buses too that we're going to be using for the on-demand system when it launches later in 2024. And we have put those on during peak times where there's concerns about accessibility to be able to support when we do have buses on there. So they'll help with the peak. They'll help in areas where there's concerns from people about accessibility, just to be able to meet those needs. So we are trying to work on the system to keep it going. And I think the smaller buses, there's no standing room in them, but you can seat about 12 people in them and they are accessible. So we're trying to do improvements where we know there are problems.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koslak. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not to anybody in particular, but I guess more to Mr. Smith. I don't want to put staff on the hot seat or anything, but can we have a report back in the near future of how much time the buses are down? It would be nice to see something. We don't have anything, and we certainly, I think we owe it to the residents to bring more information back.
Yeah, sure. We're able to do that. As the general manager pointed out, one of the challenges we have is supply chain. So a fuel pump takes 2 months and things like that. So hopefully the additional bus will give us some flexibility, and we're fortunate with the private sector service provider that we have, that they're able to fill in with buses, although not at the standard that we would like, but 100%.
Very good. Thank you, Mr.
Sorry,
Smith.
may I?
Yes.
As the access chairman, I do hear from residents quite a bit that they can't get on the buses, and it's very sad. But I look forward to the staff report as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Prendergast, did you want to speak?
Yes, please. Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. Mrs. Rowley, thank you so much for coming today to Council to speak on this important issue, and your advocacy for public transit in town is really commendable, because it's not easy to take a bus sometimes, especially when you don't know if it's coming or not. I have a bit of a solution, Mr. Koslak, and I don't know if this would be easy to do, but if we used a luggage key tag on the buses, the school buses that we have that's compatible with the app, maybe that way it would facilitate residents being able to find out when the bus is coming if we are in fact using a replacement bus. That seems to be one of the biggest issues, is having to wait outside 20, 30 minutes, and you're trying to plan your day around these things. And we know how busy everyone is. Maybe that's just a small solution that we could implement in the interim.
Thank you very much. Mr. Koslak, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, through your worship, I think that's a good idea. It's one of the things we'll take back and talk to our IT staff just to see if it is an option. I don't know if it'll be a tag, but if it's a similar, the AVL system, we might be able to have a portable system that we could move into the school bus if we need to, but we'll look at those options.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Koslak. Mayor Post.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Rowley, for being here today and for voicing these concerns. These are all very important concerns. And as we move forward with the free transit pilot, it's crucial. And one of the big things that our council wanted to do with this free transit pilot was make sure that as we move forward, we're improving transit. We get data that shows how we can improve transit. And more importantly than anything else, we want our new ridership. We know our ridership has gone up over 100% since we implemented it. We want them to continue to ride the bus. And in order to do that, the buses need to be reliable. They need to be accessible because transit doesn't work unless it works well. And we know that. So there are solutions, and I hope that Mr. Koslak and his team soon will come back with some additional solutions on how we can move forward. We know that the buses that we have currently haven't served us very well. There have been a lot of challenges with them. They're not new challenges. We continue to have maintenance issues with them, and we continue to have problems getting replacement parts for them. So I think we're to a point where we have to start thinking about a better solution. And I'm not sure that we're there quite yet, Ms. Rowley, but I promise you that our council is focused on it, and that I think all of us are keen on making sure that the free transit pilot continues to work. And the only way it's going to is if we continue to invest in transit. So thank you for your comments today. I appreciate them.
Thank you very much, Mayor Post. Ms. Rowley, did you have anything further? Or?
Yes, if
I'm sorry, you go ahead, Councillor Sherwood, and then I'll turn it
Sure.
back over to Ms. Rowley.
I would add that if when town staff do look at the actual numbers of how often the transit buses are down, in addition to what I mentioned earlier, is I hear many people on the bus or at the bus stops complaining about the system and how late it is and how etc. Very few people actually speak up or know that they can make a complaint or comment or know where to even go about that. I mentioned that to one lady once. I said, well, if you have problems with it all the time, then call the town and let them know. Oh, you can do that? So when we do that, can we please also put a lot more effort behind marketing, not just the system, so we get more riders onto the system, but also for accountability and transparency's sake. Maybe something similar to, when you see truck drivers and on the bus it says, how am I driving? If I'm a rubbish driver, you can call here and report me at the business owner. Perhaps for transparency's sake, if we did that in the bus as well and say, do you have any feedback, good or bad, on the bus system? Here's a number you can call. Please let us know. We want to hear your feedback. And then maybe we'll hear more of actual people who are using the system, the boots on the ground, who are out there using the system and seeing how often the system really doesn't work. Thank you.
Councillor Sherwood, did you?
Yes, through you, Chair. Martina, thank you very much for bringing this up. I am a user of the transit. I do frequently use it. A lot of times it's just because I like the fact that someone else is driving and I don't have to drive myself. I also use it as an opportunity to chit chat with the drivers and with people that are using it. I'm always getting on the blue route because that's where I live. It's always late. I look at the app, it says it's coming 2 minutes. I get excited and all of a sudden it says 13 minutes. So I know that frustration. I feel really bad knowing now that I've been sitting in this seat 6 years and those same problems were 6 years ago and haven't been fixed. So I'm sure that even though the riders are frustrated, you're frustrated, and I'm frustrated, I'm sure staff is just as frustrated too, because in the ideal world, we'd love to have this great big pot of money and get all these brand new buses and never have them break down. But unfortunately, they do break down. But I just wanted to thank you for bringing it to our attention, because like I said, when I ride that, I hear those comments and I experience it myself. And you're right, the blue route is too big because there's always late.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Any further comments, Council? No. Just one last thing for you. I think we've beat the bus issue. Thank you very much for sharing your information. The one comment that you made, and again, you did it so articulately tonight. I wish more people would come like you just showed up here tonight. And when you're talking to those other people, you should encourage them
to come. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know the mayor has her personal phone number out there. You can contact her anytime. You can contact me anytime, and I'm sure the rest of council, you can do the same. We want to be accessible, and good or bad, we want to hear it. And the way you did so tonight, it was commendable. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next time I present, I'll bring a posse with me.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Kashyap, would you like to come up? You could just state your name and address before you start to speak. And sir, how did I do on the pronunciation of your name? Did I do okay, or did you correct me?
Yes, sir. That's perfectly fine. And my name is Vikas Kashyap, and my address is 73 Eastview Crescent. I'm here just like I have a question related to vehicle for hire. But before that, I would like to add on to the previous question of transit. So whenever there is delays or shortfall in the transit, over there, we as taxi drivers come into picture because we get maximum calls in that period also. And I'm a little bit sad in saying that I'm not able to serve the community as I thought before taking the license. Why? Because I have to do, I am doing 2 jobs, and I have to do the cab after 3 o'clock till till the 10 or 11 as per the whatever the busy night is there. So I applied in the month of July to my wife. That's related to the one of the definition of broker. So I applied for the license of my wife so that she can act as my driver under the my same company. So she applied and she got the reply from the bylaw of town's office that I have to take the broker's license before putting her onto my companies as a second driver, because from morning till 3 o'clock I'm not driving. I will not be able to serve as I'm intended to serve. And that's why I applied my wife. She was working, so she quit to support my business. But due to this problem, I will not be able to hire her as my driver on my cab company. So my question was just to like the definition of broker in our neighboring town of Caledon. It says any person who carries out business of accepting orders or dispatching more than 1 taxi cab. So in my scenario, if she will be working as a driver, she will be using the same phone, same device. She will be accepting the call, and she will not dispatching anybody, but she will answering the calls. So I respect. I would like to ask, or I would like to modify, respect you to modify the required definition of and grant her the license. And after that, I have another questions related to the same vehicle by her. Vehicle for hire, that is for the unlicensed drivers whosoever are working in the town of Orangeville. If you go on you might be, everybody I believe is on the social media. If you post that you need a ride from Orangeville to let's say airport, there will be at least 10 to 12 people who are not licensed. They will be offering you the services. So my question is, I am paying hefty amounts, which is now nowadays is very, very big thing to take out that much chunk of the amount into the insurance cost. So what council or what town is taking action against them? I have quite a few numbers of person who are offering on frequent basis. If you post anything on the online, they will answer your call rather than the licensed taxi cab companies.
Mr. Smith or Antoinette, do you want to speak to this item? I don't mean to put you on the spot in an early way. We can.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for raising your questions. I think what staff can commit to doing is taking some of your comments and questions back, reviewing the vehicle for hire bylaw, and then determine if there are any areas for improvement. We can also do, a comparison to other municipalities is appropriate. But for now, there is in the short term an appeal process for that bylaw. So perhaps we can connect and see if you want to go through that route, as changes to bylaws may take some time, if there are to be any changes. Yeah.
For sure.
Does that answer your question for now? I mean, I know you've got some follow-up work to do.
Yeah, I'll do the follow-up with the member.
Very good, sir. Council, any comments or questions? Oh, Mayor Post, thank you. Thank you for waving.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to raise one quick point because I've had to the delegate, because I have had some questions about unlicensed drivers. I was working with our new supervisor of bylaw and licensing, Kevin, about this. And Kevin did let me know that in the coming months, once they've gotten all their team hired and ready to go, they do plan to do some sting work, like some really investigative work on some of those things, because we've heard complaints from folks about there being unlicensed drivers specifically picking up at a specific establishment. The issue is that just taking what we see on social media, that doesn't hold up in court for anything. So they have to be able to catch somebody in the process of driving somebody unlicensed. So I know that Kevin internally is doing some work on that. So I just wanted to let you know that we do know that that's still an issue in the town, and we are looking for strategies to combat that. Perhaps Antonetta could put you in contact with Kevin as well when you're doing the follow-up work, and you can let him know what you're hearing and seeing, and he can make sure he's incorporating that into the work that he's doing ongoing.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor Post.
Thank you.
Antonetta, you okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll go back to council. Any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much for being here, sir. You've got a connection now, and should find out that contact information offline here, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for being here, sir. Okay, Mart, we're going to move on to 12.3. Martin, are you on the line or in the room? I think you must be on the line.
I'm here. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Very good. Good evening, sir. So you are going to speak to 33 to 37 Broadway, the new development?
That is correct.
Very
I've got some comments to make in advance of that item being discussed later this evening. Good evening, members of council. My name is Martin Quarkapone. I am a vice president and registered professional planner with Weston Consulting. My address is 201 Millway, Suite 19 in the city of Vaughan. I'm here to make some quick comments about the application at 33 to 37 Broadway, which again is item 14.1 tonight's agenda. I will not be making any formal presentation, but I want to acknowledge staff's report that is part of this evening's discussions, and note that as the applicant and their consultant don't have any concerns with what was contained within their report, and we support the recommendations that they have made to council. And while I'm here, I think it would be helpful to acknowledge some of the pieces of correspondence that have been filed with the town in terms of this particular application. There are 2 letters that were submitted and on as part of tonight's agenda and package that are in support of the proposed development. So I don't know these individuals, but I want to say thank you. I know my client and the applicant is appreciative of the support of this building, and we're eager and excited to move it forward. But I also do want to make a quick comment about some of the notes within one of the pieces of correspondence around urban design and architecture. This might be covered through staff's presentation, I'm not sure, but I want to note that this project went through extensive third-party peer reviews through staff looking at urban design and landscape treatments. We are quite happy with the results of these conversations with the town's consultant, and we're again happy to move it forward, and we're appreciative of staff helping us to facilitate conversations with their consultant. Now, I don't have any additional further comments to make this evening, but I will say that I will be around should there be questions when we get to item 14.1, the proposal or otherwise. So thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being here. Council, my recommendation is we push on forward with this and we'll simply discuss it once we get to the staff reports. So Martin, thank you very much for being here, and I'm hoping you said you can stay and hopefully you'll be able to do so. Sir, could you help us out with your wonderful last name and share the pronunciation of that?
Certainly, it's pronounced Quarcupone. Quarcupone.
Quarcupone.
And Martin's fine as well.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. And if you could stay on the line, that would be just great.
Thank you for your time.
So we don't need a motion or to receive those, do we? No. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item 13, which is the consent agenda. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to skip over the fairgrounds. My apologies. Mike and Jim, are you on the line? Yes? If I could hand over. Can't see you just yet. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Mike
can.
Mihak. Oh,
Yeah.
good.
You'd like to speak to the fairground shopping issue?
Yes, Jim and I are here. Jim's our planner, and I represent the owners. We're just here to answer any questions. We've had a wonderful experience working with planning and to resolve an issue that's caused us some significant problems with vacancies on the property that will work for all. I think they came up with a great solution, and we're fully on side with what has been prepared and is ready for review and approval by council.
Very good. So
Thank you.
You'll be able to stay around for the staff reports?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So, you're going to go ahead now. It's in the staff reports coming up, so you'd be able to talk about it.
Deputy Mayor, it's in the consent agenda.
Yeah.
It's in the consent agenda,
Okay.
not in the staff reports.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about it? Did you want to? So we're going to get to the consent agenda next. You could remove that then. Do that then? Okay. Okay, so Madam Clerk, we're good there. We don't need to, we're just going to move on to the consent agenda now. Correct? Yes. Okay, very good. So item 13.1 is the staff reports, and the recommendation is that all consent agenda items for January 22nd, 2024, and council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, and 13.3 committee board minutes be received and approved as presented. Council members, is there any items that you'd like to pull out for discussion? Yes, please, Councillor McIntosh.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to pull out 13.2.6. Correspondence in the Township of Melancton.
That is a correspondence. These are staff reports. Is that the whole thing? Okay, so we'll take that out. Anything else, council members? Councillor Andrews, what are you doing to us?
I will ask the question, but I'd like to quickly pull out 13.1.1, which is animal control bylaw. Strictly for a quick question, and hopefully we'll get an answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. So is anything else? Anyone on the line? Councillor Prendergast is raising her hand. No, she's not. Okay, very good. And so at this point in time, we're going to, would we change the motion and read it without the two items? Is that how we're going to proceed, or would we?
Through you, Chair Taylor. So you would just read the exact motion as you read it, and then at the end you'd put with the exception of items 13.2.6 and 13.1.1.
Okay. So we're going to do that again then. So that all consent agenda items for January 22nd, 2024 council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, 13.3 committee and board members minutes, with the exception of 13.1.1 and 13.2.6 be approved. So we're going to vote on that at this time. So a motion to do that. Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Stevens, all in favor? Yes. Okay, and then that would bring us back to, and we'll go in numerical order if that's all right. We'll go into 13.11, and I'll turn the floor over to yourself, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Taylor, and through you to staff that would be responsible for this particular report. It falls under page number 8, and this is referring to wildlife. In my neighborhood, I coincidentally am adjacent to some green space, some significant green space where, in fact, we do have individuals who feel it's their justice to leave food out for the wildlife to use. And, you know, I appreciate neighbors who feed our birds, but we've had other wildlife that potentially could pose some challenges for safety of our residents. I guess the question is, how are we going to monitor this? Can we monitor this? Is this something that, you know, we just have to look at some form of communication to the general public? I've had a number of neighbors who, you know, were aware that this was coming down and, you know, zeroed in specifically on this section of the report. So I'm assuming that it would fall under our General Manager of Corporate Services. So I look forward to your response to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. Councillor Andrews, I think this is a great opportunity to bring up any comments or questions, and we encourage the public to do so. So it's a draft bylaw. We'll go out for public consultation in Q1 or Q2. We want that robust feedback from the public, and if there's an area of concern or an area that we can update in any manner, happy to take that back and update it, and then we can talk with our bylaw team in terms of what's feasible in terms of enforcement, what may not be, but how we can tweak the language to better address some of the concerns and or suggestions brought up from the public. So encourage those comments or questions when we go to the public meeting phase for this so that we get the bylaw as close to right as possible for the town of Orangeville.
And I really appreciate the opportunity for a public meeting that will be held Q1, Q2. I think that those individuals that reached out to me were in fact wanting to just express their concerns, and in a public forum such as a council meeting that gives you at least a heads up on this concern. So I know that my invitation will be sent out to those when they find out when that public meeting is being held. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. So we have Councillor Prendergast and then it's Councillor Sherwood. Okay. Councillor Prendergast, did you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. I just had one question regarding dog barking. I noticed that it was going to be removed from the animal control bylaw and put into the noise bylaw. And my question for staff is, will this change enforcement or perhaps what the town can do to prevent excessive barking? I do hear about this a lot through social media and from residents, and I'm just wondering if this will strengthen what residents can do to protect themselves against that type of noise pollution.
Antonetta?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. I don't know that it will strengthen what the town can do in any way. As you can appreciate, enforcing dog barking at loud volumes is a little bit more challenging. But again, if there are those issues, then certainly we can bring it up during that public consultation period. But it's also prudent on staff, I think, to manage expectations about what we may or may not be able to do with the tweaking of the word in the bylaw and then the enforcement of such matters.
Councillor Prendergast, are you okay with that? Yes, very good, thank you. For Sherwood.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. I just want clarification that in the report it mentions that they'll be placing an advertisement on the town's website and the newspaper about a public meeting. Will we literally be having a public meeting in this type of setting where people will come in or drop in? Or are you just looking for written responses? Because I have had people reach out to me about this who are expecting an actual public meeting.
Antonetta?
So I want clarification.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Taylor, I'm looking at our clerk, I'm getting a nod. It will be an actual public meeting in this forum. People are encouraged to attend virtually or in person and provide their feedback. If they can't attend that night, then of course any written submissions are welcome, and we will incorporate that into any work we do to adjust the bylaw.
Council, any further comments or questions?
No, seeing none. So we'll go forward with this item. So that report CPS 2023-055 Animal Control Bylaw be received, and that a public meeting be held in Q1 or Q2 of 2024 to receive feedback and comments on the proposed animal control bylaw, and that staff report back to council after the public meeting on the comments and feedback received. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Andrews. Councillor Stevens, a second. All in favor? Very good. Thank you, everyone. And so on the consent agenda, that brings us to correspondence, and it's 13.2.6, and it is the Township of Melanchthon, the Fire Department Upgraded Radio System Capital Project. And Councillor McIntosh, I turn the meeting over to yourself.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just reading this, I've read it a couple of times, and I'm kind of confused. It looks like on the outset that this is a county initiative, as all the county fire departments are mentioned. But if you read it, to me, it's, and I may be confused, but it looks to me like the Township of Melanchthon is directing our fire chief and the fire chiefs of other departments to all do what they're asking. And I don't necessarily think that's the way we should proceed with this. I guess I'm just looking for clarification. Why would we do this if we need capital radios and we're kind of going on it alone? It's either going to be a county thing or a town thing, and we need to figure out which way we're going to go here. And here we're kind of just muddying the water as far as I can see.
Ms. Savage, did you want to comment on this?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. To you, Councillor McIntosh. Yes, we received the request. We'll be considering the request. As you know, we have an approved, Town of Orangeville has an approved capital budget to upgrade our radios to increase the quality of our communications. This conversation is sitting with the Dufferin County Fire Chiefs. All I can say is that we're considering the request from the Town of Melanchthon alongside the other municipalities who also received the request, having conversations with them. And if we pursue it, we will work it into a 2024 work plan. But as you can imagine, there are competing priorities within that work plan.
Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you. I just don't feel we should be directing our fire chief to do this because the Township of Melanchthon wants us to. I wouldn't support this. Not to say in the future, if this becomes a joint venture, then we'll jointly do something like this. But right now, it's not a joint venture as far as I know. Thank you.
Any further Councillor McIntosh, what do you want to do with this item then? So if you're not going to support it, we're simply going to receive correspondence, fairly creating an action. I certainly hear your eloquent words and thank you for them, but how do you want to leave this?
I guess I'll look for clarification. If we receive this, are we not granting the request?
Says no.
Then
receive it,
and I will support that.
Okay. So, Madam Clerk, we're going to receive this one item because we pulled it out, and we're going to move on. So I have a motion to receive 13.2.5 13.2.6 Township Melanchthon Fire Department Upgraded Radio Systems Capital Project. Motion, please. Councillor McIntosh, all in favor? Yes. Okay, very good. So we will move on to 13.3 committee and board meeting minutes. Oh, right. Sorry. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to staff reports then, Councillor Andrews tells me. You know, it's a lot easier to drive a car when you're sitting in a passenger seat. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just try to figure it out.
Yeah, I'd rather sit in the passenger seat. When is post coming back? Okay. 14, everybody stay with me now. 14 is staff reports. We're going to go to 14.1, and 14.1 is 3337 Broadway, the recommendation report RZ 202102, INS 2023-072. And the recommendation is that report INS 2023-072, 33 to 37 Broadway, recommendation report RZ 2021-02 be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application, file number RZ 2021-02 be approved, and that council pass a bylaw included as an attachment number 4 to this report to amend zoning bylaw 2290 as amended to rezone the subject lands municipality known as 33 to 37 Broadway to a neighboring commercial C2 zone and special provision number 24.240 in order to permit an 8-story mixed-use building containing 97 residential units and ground-level commercial space. Sad. Who wrote that? That is the longest thing ever. Mr. Ward, would you like to speak to this at all, sir?
Sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. So the report before you is a recommendation report in support of an approval of the zoning bylaw amendment application submitted. As you explained in the recommendation paragraph you just read out. This is an application that was submitted in August of 2021. It's a proposed 8-story, 97-unit mixed-use building. There's ground level commercial, and then floors 2 through 4 above that contain what we call podium parking. So basically a parking garage, but it's above grade. And then the remaining stories above that contain the residential units. The proposal has demonstrated that there are to be rental units, and the composition is explained in a little more detail in the report. It's gone through a very iterative process of review. We had a public meeting in February of 2022. We heard some comment about the design. The consultant took that back, or the applicant took that back, that is. And as they stated in the delegation earlier, we had this peer reviewed externally by a consultant specializing in urban design and architecture to provide comment on behalf of the town. And in response to that, the applicants come forward with a revised concept. They've reduced the height from what was initially proposed at 9 stories down to 8 stories, and they've enhanced the design to bring in some more traditional materials and make the building look more traditional, not fully replicating more heritage-inspired themes, but also bringing forward more of a blend of more modern design, but using traditional materials and trying to make a more attractive development product. So overall, we think the projects come along quite positively and are pleased to bring forward a recommendation report in support of this redevelopment on this property.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Ward. Appreciate that. Councillor McIntosh, you had a question?
Thank you. Not so much a question, more of a statement. I absolutely do support this. Right now, we've got an abandoned nightclub that is either going to fall down or burn down shortly. We've got a restaurant, which I love because I was there today. It's a great restaurant. Unfortunately, it's also in rough shape. I think this will be a great addition for our main street. The parking lot is frankly a disgrace in that area. So again, I see a lot of social media comments about, the look of Broadway. I think this will help. And the rental units, I also hear people talk about there's no rental units in town. These are rental units. So it's really going to help, people find a place. And it'll also bring prices down. When you have more places to choose from, the demand comes down. So I will absolutely be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh. We have Councillor Andrews and then Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Taylor. And I also, again, echo what Councillor McIntosh has stated about the rental units. I do want to compliment the applicant. As the chair of the Homelessness Task Force, which I also have indicated at times seems to also include affordable housing. This is a perfect example of supporting the needs of our community with rental units in a variety of different sizes. And I think it is also complementary to the demand in our community. We have a significant demand where comments are made, especially at the Homelessness Task Force, where we don't have affordable housing. And so this will certainly support that. My second question is based on the number of parking units that are there, or parking spaces. As much as these will be rental units, there may be residents who have electric vehicles. Will the applicant be able to tell me, or will Mr. Ward be able to tell me, will there be a number of those particular stalls or parking spots also providing some form of electric plug-in support?
Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. I may ask the applicant to answer to that if they could. They may have a little more details about what their plans are in terms of parking space allocation and possible EV stations within.
Thank you.
Very good. Martin, are you still on the line?
I am still here.
Would you
Thank
like
you
to
for
answer
the,
that question?
certainly. At this time, I don't believe we're looking to include EV stations within the proposed development. But maybe what I'll note to add to that is there's still the next step here of executing the site plan agreement. So there is one more stage between zoning approval and then call it construction and building permits. So I think what I can endeavor to do is go back to my client to see if they have interest in including a percentage of EV parking spaces, charging stations rather, and I can work with Brandon and his team to finalize that site plan to incorporate those if they're able to.
That's greatly appreciated. And as I just have one more comment, I know that some of the other, not necessarily in our community, but in other communities where some of the problems have existed where residents are actually taking an extension cord and plugging it into their own unit because they're close enough to their unit, but they don't have an appropriate charging outlet for their vehicles. So just a point of reference, but I think that if you have that opportunity to go back to your client, Martin, and at least consider this, that would be also appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments, Councillor Andrews, appreciate that. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments about this. First of all, being on the Homeless Task Force Committee, we know that affordable housing is an issue. So I'm all in support of these types of developments, seeing that they are going to be rental and not condominiums. So it's nice to know that someone's not going to come and try and take advantage and do some outrageous rentals. I do have real concerns about the parking. One is that we're reducing the parking for the residents themselves to only have one. The parking stalls are going from 253 down to 221. In the report, it's specifying that the commercial part of the property will have a restaurant. And I can tell you that a restaurant has more requirements and more pressures on parking than a retail. I'm not going in and shopping and running in and out and grabbing something like I would at a grocery store or a clothing or shoe store. I'm at a restaurant. So I want to know how many of those 221 parking spots are going to be allocated to the commercial, because I think we're going to have a problem there when people are trying to visit that restaurant and other retail. And then I have another comment, but maybe Martin, you want to take that one, or is that going to staff?
Mr. Ward, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you, I could perhaps just provide a bit of commentary on the zoning approach. Maybe Mr. Clark-Capone has details, or Mr. Waters, he's our senior planner as well, who's also participating in the meeting virtually. They may have more details about the parking allocation, but I will say that the zoning presents an exemption for the parking spaces required per unit. The prevailing requirements of the bylaw for commercial will still apply, and they do have different requirements depending on the commercial use. Restaurants are known to have a higher uptake of activity and hence generate more parking demand. There is a slightly more stringent rate for commercial parking for a restaurant than other uses. So whatever uses come into that commercial space, they'll have to adhere to those parking regulations.
Very good. Councillor Sherwood? You okay? Get what you need?
Like I said, the parking issue is a real issue. It always has been an issue downtown, and I really struggle with seeing parking being reduced in developments. And also the height of it, we asked them to come back and not have it so high, and they removed one story. That's fine and dandy. Being on Heritage Orangeville, I can tell you that when we worked with the developers at 60 Broadway, we came back with a phenomenal agreement to have such a beautiful building that really blended in with our heritage district. This one is more along the modern side. I was hoping that they maybe could take into consideration something more that could appeal to driving into our historical downtown as a visual. And my other comment about it is the top part of the development. There's a couple of levels. that are close to the front. And Mr. Smith, when he made his comments, kind of made a good idea as to so that the perception is that they're not so overpowering. Could those have not be moved to the back, and that from the front of the street, as you're driving along the street, there's maybe about 4 stories that are visual right from the street side, and the others are back, because that's similar to what we approved for the Broadway development down at Broadway in Wellington. Heritage recommended putting the higher portion kind of back away. So that's just my little comment.
Mr. Ward, did you want to speak, or do you want me to move this to the owner?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. I can provide a bit more
Okay.
explanation
Yeah,
if you'd
for
like
sure.
on
Thank
the height issue. It's a very important point, and it's a very important location. It's been reviewed carefully, recognizing it's sort of in a gateway area to the town, and is one of the first impressions you get as you make your way into the downtown area. But having said that, the comparison to the development slightly to the west at 60 Broadway, you were right adjacent to the downtown Heritage Conservation District. So in that sense, you have much stronger policy, more stringency of requiring, more sympathy to heritage character because you're right beside it. In this location, you don't have that closeness in terms of context. You don't have immediately adjacent heritage buildings. So it's appropriate to look at the site holistically and try to strike a balance, not necessarily dismissing a more modern design, but trying to recognize Orangeville's more historic character and the heritage attributes throughout, but also, trying to blend that in context with some modern design. I've said we don't want to mimic architectural design where we can, and we don't want to be dismissive of modernist design either. So we want to find a happy medium. And in terms of the height, you'll notice in the rendering, the consultant team has worked towards providing some differentiation in the appearance to try to provide some distinction about the height appearance, try to break that up. When you have sort of horizontal separation, it softens the impression. And I believe the top 2 stories are set back slightly, but that's been done within reason to accommodate some of that rooftop amenity space being provided on the site.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. 2 things. One, I was hoping for more of the front of it to be back a little bit more. The setting of the front, it seems to be really, really, really close to Broadway. I was hoping maybe we could have some street level parking or something there. Maybe some disabled parking spots, something in that area. And number 2, what is the guarantee, Mr. Ward, that in 10 years from now they don't sell it and turn it into a condo, which we've had in the past all over Orangeville?
Mr. Ward.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. Great question. I'll speak to the condominium conversion first. So that would require planning approvals. And there's sort of 2 streams we follow. One is what we call an exemption. It sort of bypasses the public process. That's what you often see with a development that's just followed a planning process and they're really looking at an implementing stage. It's establishing the condominium parameters for what you've already reviewed and approved through some sort of land use change. In this instance, it's very different. We've gone through this exercise knowing that it's intended to be residential. So if there were the proposal to change to a condominium, we'd subject to that to the more traditional process that involves a public notice and public meeting and a decision of council on that matter. And that's where we'd look towards the nature of the conversion, where there are incentives provided with that rental that now ought to be reimbursed or whatever at that time. There's many factors that would be eligible for consideration. The second piece about the parking. So in urban design principles, it's sort of a good planning or good design approach to have your buildings in a more urbanized environment like this to abut the street. It presents more animation in terms of the streetscape vibrancy. You have more storefront activity, more visual interest than parking. In fact, we have policies that discourage parking to directly abut the street. That is something that you might see in more suburbanized shopping centers, but in an urban area like this, it's much more preferential to get the building up front towards a street, and it really stimulates more pedestrian activity than car activity.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Councillor Sherwood, you can go after Mayor Post if that's all right.
Mayor Post has been patiently waiting. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to make a couple of brief comments. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge for the community that I've seen a lot of discussion about this on social media and read as many comments as I could. And I just wanted to acknowledge that anytime we do a build like this, I know that there's change, and that change like this, especially in our downtown community, can be difficult because it's not traditionally what we've done in the past. However, we're at a point now where we talk about housing and we talk about the housing crisis everywhere that I go. You know, at the Town of Orangeville Council, we talk about it. At Dufferin County, we talk about it. We're talking about it here at Roma, as we're acknowledging with the province. There is a housing crisis in this province, and Orangeville has committed ourselves to being part of the solution. And I have to thank the applicant. I've been screaming from the rooftops that we need purpose-built rental in this community. We've got residents in our community paying $750 a month to live in a bedroom in a house. We have people paying $2,500 a month to live in a basement apartment. We do not have affordable rent options, and supply is one of the biggest problems that we have. I am very supportive of this. I want to thank the applicant for coming back and making changes and for working with our town staff on some really great implementations, and particularly the rental piece. I do really think that, again, it's hard to envision what a building like that is going to look like, because for those of us like myself who were born here, this is a big change for our community, but I think it's a really welcome change. We're really moving forward in a way that's progressive, that's really trying to build strong communities, putting rental houses close to the downtown, close to the transit line, close to all of those things, all the amenities, is exactly how we need to move forward. I'm extremely supportive of this proposal, and I will be voting in favor.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Post. Councillor Sherwood? Go ahead.
Just
Sorry.
one more.
I'd written it down and then I forgot.
Sorry about that.
This hosting the meeting thing is really.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah. So are you.
Again, perhaps Martin can answer this, because I think I put the question out, or maybe it was in my head. How many commercial parking spots are being allocated to this development? And how many commercial units will there be?
Mr. Ward, is that something you'd like to cover off, or do you want us to go to the owner?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I might ask that either the applicant, Mr. Gorkapom, or Mr. Waters might have the answer to that.
Martin, are you able to share with us how many commercial spots?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm looking through the drawings right now that I have in front of me, and it looks to me that there are, I believe, 33 commercial parking spaces. I just got to double check if that's the latest set that I have in front of staff. But to Mr. Ward's comments, we're not seeking an amendment to the required parking rate through the town's bylaws. So whatever type of retail or commercial use that would be introduced to the ground floor would we have to meet the requirements set by the town's bylaw. In terms of the question of how many commercial units are proposed, at this time, there's one large space that is proposed that fronts onto Broadway. You can't see it on your site plan drawing. I've tapped into the report, but I'm looking at it right here. There is, I think it's just over 3,200 square feet of commercial. The applicant will have to come back once they get tenants for that space to divvy it out and demise it. So depending on if there's going to be one large restaurant who takes all that space, or a smaller restaurant and a convenience store or a cafe, depending on what the zoning permits for a land use, they'll have to come back in for a separate permit to divide that space up as appropriate. But in terms of how many units are currently proposed, it's one. In terms of how many will there be, that's a question that will have to come back after construction.
Very good. Okay, council, any further comments? Nothing on the line. I'll share mine if I could. So first of all, I guess I would be very aligned with the insightful comments brought by yourself, Councillor McIntosh, and Mayor Post. I liked where you were going as well. To me, I'd just like to thank you, Martin, and if you could thank your business partners as well. Anybody that wants to come to our town and invest as much money as you're doing and provide something that we desperately need, my arms are wide open, and I'm very appreciative that you've chosen Orangeville to deploy your funds. In terms of some other things that I was concerned about, we've covered off the parking. I would like to talk to you, Mr. Ward, just about the design study itself. As I recall, there was a larger picture item that is being done for that corridor, and you were going back with your team to work on what the overall look would be. And I think it's also a good point in the conversation before you answer is to remind the public there is significant projects projected to be done in this area over the next few years. The building that's going to happen down there will make the area significantly different than it is now. So there is lots of projects, and my concern has always been we've driven into areas, and that will be the gateway to our community. I want it to look like it flows and makes sense, and everything is kind of together in some sort of way, and it's Orangeville. And I believe the work that you were doing was going to ensure that that was the case. And I'm just curious how this project dovetails with that work. And because to my knowledge, we haven't seen that work from you yet. And I just want to make sure we get that. I think it's really important what you're doing. Mr. Ward, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. And through you, I can speak to the project of what we call an avenue study or an avenue segment study. We have a request for proposals published, and it's currently out, and it closes early February, I believe. So we expect to bring a consultant on board to do that project, perhaps mid to late March, depending on how that exercise goes. And that really is going to establish the planned vision for, we're focusing not only on the East Broadway area in question, but also the West Broadway. There's a segment there that has some opportunity. We've had some development interest expressed in that corridor too. So we want to look at essentially the shoulder areas of East and West Broadway. That's going to look at a preferred development vision, and it's also going to take into account any opportunities or constraints in terms of infrastructure capacity, road needs, are there floodplain constraints, et cetera, that need to be addressed and accommodated. And that's really going to present us the sort of the built form parameters that are going to set the stage for that development vision and specify what sort of financial matters might need to be addressed as part of that. So it's a good time to do that relative to not only do we have development applications underway, in addition to the subject site on tonight's agenda, we of course have the 6062 Broadway further up the street, so to speak, to the west. We also have a site sort of across the road at 48 to 52 Broadway, another land use application under review right now. So those are the three more prominent ones that are in front of us and going through the review process.
Very good. Thank you for that. So just as a follow-up, we are not putting the chicken before the egg in terms of approving this building and the work that you're doing. It's going to dovetail nicely, and we'll feel good when we see these buildings up, is essentially what you're saying. Correct?
That's correct, Deputy Mayor Taylor. We're focusing on, especially on the streetscape, and we wanted to make sure that each development isn't sort of doing their own thing for their portion of the streetscape in the boulevard area. It's encouraging to see that these developments are wanting to come forward and do some improvements, but we want it to be done holistically and consistently. So in having said that, we're looking at some arrangements whereby we establish what that's going to be through this study, and then we have negotiations with those developers to make, to see that there's equitable contribution to those works in the future.
That's great. Thank you for doing that work. Mayor Post is a little more in tune than I am with social media and the people, but I too read through some of the comments, and it was surprising to me the passion that people felt about Angel's Diner. I certainly have been there. I've enjoyed the food very much. Angels is welcome to come back to our town once this building is done. So I just wanted to make that comment. Mike, another thought that I had is the retail that's underneath this, Mr. Ward. We're planning to have that. I've heard different things, and again, I'm an amateur planner, so pardon me. The feeling is what we want more residentials. We want more rentals to service our community. With that, we would hope that area would carry on and create a more vibrant downtown. And having people live downtown would make those businesses vibrant.
Are we creating a system where we've got too much retail and it starts to pull away from the core, which we want to celebrate? So that building is down a little bit further. Do we need retail there, or should we be encouraging, you know, more rentals there, and downtown will serve your needs, and it's a 500-meter walk for you to enjoy those? Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, it's a fair comment. I would note, however, that existing area, that the proposal does meet the as of right zoning permissions for the commercial. They're not seeking any change or relief to the use permitted. So they're seeking to utilize that. So it is meeting that planned function in terms of the use composition. In terms of downtown, I think the downtown is showing its resiliency. In terms of the use composition. Ironically, the other application on tonight's agenda that looked at the fairgrounds matter, there was a lot of consideration to its relationship to the downtown, and I think it's proven that different retail areas have different retail functions. This area is that neighborhood commercial, so it very much is serving it's intended to serve the needs of the residents. And you also have strong policy support in the current official plan with respect to supporting or encouraging more residential in peripheral to the downtown, recognizing that influx of residential is going to stimulate and contribute to the vibrancy of the downtown.
Very good. Thank you for explaining that. My one last comment, and it was a conversation I had with our CAO, and Mr. Smith, I think you're absolutely right. People are concerned. They don't want to see an albatross in our town. They're worried about heights and whatnot. And Mr. Smith's comment to me is that location of the building is in a dip. It's down a hill. It's in the lower end of our town. As a matter of fact, if you think about the topography of the town, you come off of the highway, you come up Broadway, and you gradually go up. The west end is windy because it's higher than the rest of the town. The point is that this building will be 8 stories tall, but it'll be in one of the lowest sections of our town. And the reason that you can't have parking underneath it is because there's water under there. You can't dig. So I think that bodes well for this as well. And I, for one, am going to be voting in favor of this. So if there's no further comments, I think I was the last one. At this point, I do need a mover. Could I have that? Councillor McIntosh, and a seconder. Councillor Stevens, thank you. No further comments. I think we've done this. All in favor? Yes. Thank you very much. Martin, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate the time that you gave us.
Thank you. Have a good evening, guys.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So there's no notices of motion prior to meeting. However, there is some. You're ready to speak to this already, Mayor Post? There's a notice of motion at meeting, and it is time sensitive. And I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Post, but I believe what we're going to be doing is asking to waive the notice of motion period for a time sensitive item that Mayor Post has. Mayor Post, if you could take the reins here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. Council will have seen this. I did send it out earlier, but we've also just received the county's version of this as well. So just for the public's sake, just to speak a little bit to what it's about, it's time sensitive because the Associations of Municipalities of Ontario have requested that municipalities advocate to the province to change the way that they're funding us. I've been, again, a loud proponent of saying that the current system of only using property taxes to fund municipalities isn't working. There's a better system out there and it needs to be found. What this motion speaks to specifically is that as more complex social needs are happening that are provincial responsibilities, we aren't being funded at an adequate amount to be able to take care of those things. So some would be homelessness as an example, other social services. And as a result, municipalities are kicking in money because we need to deal with the issue because it's happening in our communities right now. So the time sensitivity piece is that we're hoping to get these endorsements and these asks into the province while they're doing their budget consultations. So the budget consultations end January 31st. I'll read the motion first, and then I will ask for a motion to waive notice, and then I'll ask for a motion on the actual item, but I'll read it out into the public record first. Whereas current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining Ontario's economic prosperity and quality of life, whereas nearly a third of municipal spending in Ontario for services in areas of provincial responsibility and expenditures are outpacing provincial contributions by nearly $4 billion a year, whereas municipal revenues, such as property taxes, do not grow with economy or inflation, whereas unprecedented population and housing growth will require significant investments in municipal infrastructure, whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, supporting asylum seekers, and addressing the mental health and addictions crises. Whereas inflation, rising interest rates, and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity. Whereas property taxpayers, including people on fixed incomes and small businesses, can't afford to subsidize income redistribution programs for those most in need. Whereas the province can and should invest more in the prosperity of communities. Whereas municipalities and the provincial government have a strong history of collaboration. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Orangeville requests that the province of Ontario commit to undertaking, with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. And the only other thing that I'm going to add that was not in the draft that I sent the clerk is that our copy of the resolution be sent to the Premier, to our MPP, and to all municipalities within Ontario.
Very good.
So I will I'll first ask for a motion to waive notice if possible.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if we could have that, would council like to make a motion to waive notice? Councillor Andrews would like to move that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Stevens, all in favor of waiving notice? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so now we have a motion on the floor. We'll have it first and second, and then we can discuss, okay?
But it'll be moved by me. I just need a seconder. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor McIntosh, thank you very much. Discussion. Any thoughts? Councillor Stevens has no thoughts. No? Councillor Andrews, you'd like to speak to this?
I just want to again compliment and thank our mayor for leading this at our level and really making sure that the province is aware of our needs. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Andrews. Okay. Call the vote. Seeing the question. All in favor? Thank you very much, everyone. That carries unanimous. And thank you very much, Mayor Post, for leading this on behalf of the town. Okay, and the next one on notice of motion, this is Councillor Andrews. Would you like me to read it first and then you can share
Sure.
background? Would that
Absolutely.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So this notice of motion is that council support Councillor Andrews' request for partial reimbursement for travel, meals, and accommodations to attend the Nashville Conference on African American History and Culture in Nashville, Tennessee on February 9th, 2024, and that reimbursement amount of $550 be funded from the council professional development budget. And if I could just offer some thoughts. Normally, this would be a budget item. It's a late addition. And in fairness, both Councillor Andrews and Mayor Post have asked that it be discussed this way in council for transparency. Because it is public funding and public money, and both individuals felt that it was important that it be brought forward in this fashion. So I thank you both for that, and I'll turn the floor over to yourself, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Taylor. For those of you on council and staff and the general public, I've been invited by the organizers of this conference, which is being facilitated by the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Tennessee State University. I've received this invitation because of my background and past experiences in EDI, which is Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Implementation. My connection to the request is from my previous role in senior administration in the Ontario post-secondary system, where I was involved with the rollout of extensive EDI strategy that supported diverse stakeholders from employees to the community. Now, this past experience is also helping me to guide what I hope is a wholesome commitment to EDI within the town as well as the organization in the coming years. In my role as chair of the town's EDI committee, I'm responsible to fulfill the various action items as found in the council-approved 2024 EDI work plan, and one of which is to seek unique ideas or activities that embrace our growing community and community diversity. This particular conference demonstrates that it is well experienced in this. It's now entering its 43rd year with a focus on governance, community history, and artistic embracement. As has been identified, my request is to seek partial reimbursement for attending this conference, and the total sum has been identified by the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrews. So I think the first step in this is
Correct. I would like to waive notice to the clerk, and Madam Clerk, I guess we go through the process, and so I'll be seeking a motion for that.
to make a motion to waive notice. Councillor Andrews, Councillor Stevens, all in favor of waiving notice on this item?
Thank you.
Councillor Pendergrass, very good. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and then can we have a motion to Councillor McIntosh and a seconder? Councillor Sherwood, thank you. Okay, comments or questions for Councillor Sherwood?
Yes, through your worship, I'm fully in support of this, Councillor Andrews. Will you be reporting back to council or to the EDI, and we read it through the meeting?
Absolutely. I'll be reporting back to the EDI committee with my vice chair being noted, as well as even other staff. I think it's imperative that we, as I've expressed, look at other opportunities that that will embrace our diversity in our community. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity to engage and discuss with some of the historians and others that have gone through this now for its 43rd year.
I'm very confident, Councillor Andrews, that you will represent our community well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sherwood. Mayor Post, you'd like to speak to this item?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Andrews on the opportunity. I think it's a very unique opportunity to raise the profile of our community as well. And I know that you'll be a great steward for it. So congratulations, and I'll be fully supportive.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Post. Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll call this item to vote. All in favor? Yes. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, so we are at the time for our bylaws. Announcements. I'm trying to move this meeting along. Okay, any announcements from councillors at this time? Councillor Andrews, that's why you didn't want me to stop over, is because you wanted to speak some more.
Thank you. I just happen to be your navigator.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good car rally driver that you are. Very quickly, I know that we have a number of proclamations that are made by our town under the leadership of our mayor and other staff, but Black History Month is coming up in February, and we will have a proclamation. We will be notified when that proclamation is, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because of the schedule of our council meetings. And we don't have another one until early February, so subsequently I thought it was important to address that at council and in this public forum.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Any other announcements? No? Nothing else going on at this time? Great. Okay. Am I okay to go on, Councillor Andrews? Very good. So we'd like to move to bylaws. The recommendation is the bylaws listed below be read 3 times and finally passed. 18.1 is a bylaw to provide for the levy and collection of rates or levies for the town of Orangeville for the interim levy for the year 2024. 18.2 is a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2290 as amended with respect to Plan 251 PT, agricultural fairgrounds and hall grounds, town of Orangeville, county of Dufferin, municipality known as 85115 Fifth Avenue and 9397 First Street. 18.3 is a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw 2290 as amended Lot 4, part of Lot 3, Plan 256, part of Lot 1, Concession 1, WHS, part of First Avenue, Part 201, as closed by MF 142542, Part 1, 7R 2717, S/T, MF 155105, municipality known as 3337 Broadway. And finally, 18.4, which is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the town of Orangeville at its closed and regular council meetings held on January 22nd, 2024. Could I have a motion to approve these bylaws? Councillor Andrews, Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? Yes. Okay, very good. And I've always wanted to do this. So Councillor McIntosh, it is your favorite time of the night. It is time for adjournment, and I'm just going to give you the movement to adjourn. And could I have a seconder to that? Who would like to? Councillor Andrews would like to do that. Oh, I'll give it to Mayor Post. Mayor Post can be the seconder. She's the lead. Okay, all in favor? Very good. Okay, thank you, everyone. Mayor Post, you can have this job back as anytime you'd like.
You did a wonderful job, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Humor gets me.